The 49ers opened Christian McCaffrey's practice window today. Do they really need him to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday? We'll break it all down for you next on Cohn and Hensley. What's up, everyone? Good afternoon, good evening. That's Ryan G. Hensley. I'm Grant Cohn. The 49ers have Christian McCaffrey back. He's in the locker room today. He's in the practice field. He was running. He was juking. He looked good. Now, he hasn't actually done any, contact drills yet, but that's coming this week. And if he has no setbacks, it seems like the 49ers have no qualms about playing him against Tampa. Question is, do they need to play him against Tampa to win this weekend? What do you think?
I don't think they need to. No, I don't think Tampa Bay, especially with the loss of their two receivers, their two-star receivers, I don't think the 49ers need him to beat that team. I think he will play, and I think they'll use him for sure. But do they need him? No, I don't think so.
Okay, let me just disagree with you right there. The thing about the Niners is, I like the Niners without Christian McCaffrey this year. I don't think it really matters who they're playing. Unless they're playing a team that's completely awful. Like, we're talking buns.
Like Cowboys?
Cheeks. Yeah, if they're playing a team that's like cheeks, then sure, absolutely. But a team that's sort of like middle of the road, that's a team that could give the 49ers trouble without McCaffrey. And another thing about the Niners, like, they haven't locked in yet this season. They haven't won 2 games in a row. So, to me, they've been sort of waiting for McCaffrey to come back. I'm not in their heads, but they've just been so, even the coach said they lack urgency. So the urgency is, well, second half is here. We got McCaffrey back. Should they be expected to beat the Bucs without McCaffrey? Yes. But this team would find a way to lose that game. Considering they lost to like the Rams under the same circumstances, right? Like the Rams didn't have their wide receivers. Niners found a way to lose.
Yeah, no, maybe the question, maybe I didn't answer the question properly. They shouldn't need him. It makes their job a whole lot easier with Christian McCaffrey. And so I think that, they're absolutely going to use him. They are a more talented team to me than Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So when I say they don't need him or they shouldn't need him, that's what I mean. But they shouldn't have needed him to beat the Rams. They shouldn't have needed him to beat the Cardinals. So to your point, I understand and I agree and understand that aspect of it.
Like, to me, Baker Mayfield is in the same tier of quarterback as Brock. Mm-hmm. I don't know that Brock is better than Baker. Now, Baker's missing his receivers. Brock's missing Brandon Ayuk. The thing about the Niners, like, even if you had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, they're excellent. But so are the Niners corners. I mean, Charvarius Ward, Renardo Green, Diamador Lenore, even Isaac Yiadom has been pretty good this year. So it seems to me the best way to go at the Niners is go at Devondre Campbell, go at Jair Brown, safeties and linebackers. And this Bucs team, they got Cade Otton, who is a tight end who catches a lot of passes. They got Rachaad White, who's a running back who catches a lot of passes, Bucky Irving. It's enough for them to stay competitive against a Christian McCaffrey-less 49ers.
Yeah, and I think the real problem, though, to me is, defense isn't doing as good as they were last year, and they haven't really been tested in the run game, stopping the run yet. So we'll see how that goes throughout the season. But like you said, the defensive back unit is solid, one of the best that we've had in recent years. I don't think the problem for the 49ers is really the major problem for the 49ers. They haven't had problems really on defense, in my opinion. It's not a horrible defense by any means, in my opinion. They've done a good job of moving the ball up and down the field. It's just punching it in, scoring in the red zone. That's really the problem for the 49ers this season, and CMC makes a huge difference. So defensively, not concerned. Moving the ball, not concerned. But having Christian McCaffrey definitely opens it up from a scoring standpoint. Although they have been leaning on George Kittle more than they have been in the past, and Juwan Jennings is back, so that'll help as well. They shouldn't need Christian McCaffrey to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I expect them to play, and I expect them to help tremendously.
The other thing about Tampa that's kind of interesting to me, like, same thing with the Chiefs, right? Like, the Niners, They faced a Chiefs team that didn't have Juju, didn't have Rashee Rice. They didn't have receivers. And the Chiefs still put up 28 points and won, in large part because the Niners couldn't contain Mahomes as a runner. And Baker Mayfield isn't the runner that Mahomes is, but he's averaging 5.8 yards per carry this year on 3.5 carries a game. So if Nick Bosa is going to keep doing that thing where he rushes past the quarterback and then dives at the quarterback's ankles and like tries to grab his shoelaces as he goes by, that's not going to get it done. Like they have to keep that man in the pocket. If they let him scramble around and McCaffrey doesn't play, yeah, they could lose. But 5.5 point favorites on the road, talking about all the adversity the Niners have faced this year. Like, no, you're still head and shoulders better than every opponent you face. You're expected to win. The fact that you're 4-4 is remarkable, but they've gone on runs after bye weeks before.
Right. They typically do. If you look at the last several years, the last 4 years under Kyle Shanahan, they have a lot of success after the bye week. Kyle Shanahan is actually pretty good, has a really good record after the bye week. So I fully expect the 49ers to go there and beat Tampa Bay. Christian McCaffrey makes it a whole hell of a lot easier, even if he's just on the field for a little bit. But it's not just Christian McCaffrey that's coming back. You got Juwan Jennings. That's huge. Also for the 49ers, having him back. Ricky Pearsall is kind of working his way into the lineup. Isaac Rindo's kind of coming out of nowhere. So I think all of these things combined, mixed with coming off the bye week, mixed with coming off of being able to get healthy. Like guys, this is not being talked about a lot, but Fred Warner, George Kittle, they were nursing injuries. They're playing through them, but they were banged up, and this bye week is going to allow them to heal. So I expect them to be at full strength as well in this game on Sunday too. So that's huge also.
That's another, like, you brought this up a minute ago, but the red zone stuff. The red zone issues are another reason why the Niners can never feel that confident without McCaffrey, because you don't know, like, that week could be the week that they're 1 of 4, 2 of 5 in the red zone. Like a few weeks ago, they played Arizona and they scored 16 points on offense in that game. And Arizona doesn't have a good defense at all. So with McCaffrey, you're not really worried about them getting to the 6-yard line and not scoring a touchdown. But right now, that's very much in this team's DNA.
I expect the 49ers to make a huge jump in points per game now that Christian McCaffrey's back. But I will point out and say it's kind of, what's the right word? Pathetic, I guess, if I'm going to go extreme with my vocabulary, to not be able to score just because you're missing Christian McCaffrey. You still have Isaac Rindo, Jordan Mason, George Kittle. You got a ton of talent, Deebo Samuel. That part does speak negatively in regards to Kyle Shanahan and his offensive play calling. I don't think the loss of CMC should have been a good, valid excuse for the 49ers not to score with all the weapons they have with Brock Purdy at quarterback. And like, they should have been able to score regardless. But the reality is they weren't. And now they have CMC, and I expect that to help out.
Yeah, I mean, to me, taking it back to how you started it, they should be able to win this game without McCaffrey. They should be able to say, you know what, this is really a very serious injury he's coming back from. We've been so patient. We've worked so hard not to rush it. We need him here for December, and we need him here for next year too. We don't want to risk him coming back too soon, tearing an Achilles, and missing next year too. So we can beat the Bucs this week. We don't need Christian. We'll bring back Christian when we really need him for Green Bay and Buffalo. But if they lose this game and fall to 4-5 while Arizona's hot and the Rams are hot, I mean, all of a sudden you're looking at their odds of actually making the playoffs, maybe dipping below 50% midway through the season. I mean, they can't let that happen. It's not a must-win game, but they can't really mess around here. If McCaffrey says he's good to go and he gets cleared, they got to play him. And I'm not saying give him 25 carries, but don't lose. Play him as much as it takes to win.
I mean, the 49ers have kind of painted themselves in a corner where it almost is every game is almost a must-win game at this point for the 49ers.
There's no margin for error.
There's no margin for error. So they have to, like, I saw a lot of people saying just play Christian McCaffrey when you get to the playoffs. Like, well, what if you don't get to the playoffs? Like, that's what you're playing for right now. You have to get there first.
Well, let's answer that question. Will the 49ers get to the playoffs? Right now, They're like the 10 seed. And it's possible they could get in as a wild card. It's possible. But right now, it looks like their best path to the playoffs is to win the division. And right now, they're behind the Cardinals, who are hot. The Rams have the same record and the tiebreaker on them because they've beaten them once. They're hot. Do you think the Niners will win the division and get to the playoffs?
This morning on my show with Eric Crocker, I said, no, I don't think they're going to win the division. I think they'll get in with the wild card. But the more I think about it, I do think they're going to win the division. Now that they have Christian McCaffrey back and they have Jawan Jennings and they painted themselves in a corner and every game is a must-win situation, they are, a game and a half behind the Cardinals because of the tiebreaker. They're a half game behind the Rams because of the tiebreaker. I expect them, they play Tampa Bay. I think they're going to win that game. Then they play the Seahawks at home, and they've had their number the entire time Geno Smith has been there. I don't see the Seahawks beating the 49ers, so I expect that to be another win. And by the time they play the Cardinals and the Rams again, you're talking about a team that hopefully, if no one else gets injured, might have Dre Greenlaw back. They're bringing back a lot of pieces that can really help this team. Plus the trade deadline tomorrow. I do expect them. We'll talk about that more, but I expect them to have something. I don't know how big of a thing, but I do expect the 49ers to do what they've done the last 4 years, which is go on a run after the bye week. And the reemergence, the return of Christian McCaffrey does a big part in helping that happen.
All right, so I'm looking at, with McCaffrey back, assuming he's somewhat close to what he was last year and durable. I mean, they should win this week. They should win next week. Tampa, Seattle, 6-4. Green Bay on the road, winnable. You don't know about Jordan Love's groin, but I'm going to go with Green Bay at this time. Buffalo the next week, going to go with them for now. That would be 6-6. Chicago looked bad against Arizona. Let's give the Niners that game, 7-6. And the Rams.
I expect them to win that one. I expect, what's funny? Here's the thing is, the Rams beat the 49ers, even though they were missing both their wide receivers and were very unhealthy. Even though that's being said, I still expect the 49ers to beat the Rams at home the second time. If the Rams sweep the Niners, I would be shocked.
I mean, again, they'll be favored. They should be expected, but the Rams are tough. They have a better quarterback than the Niners, and they're not a deep team. So if Cooper Kupp's hurt that week, they're not the same. But if they have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and Stafford all healthy the same week, they're tough. I might give lean toward the Rams just for now. That would be 7-7. Then the Dolphins next week. That's a win. Lions week after. That's a loss. So 8-8 going into the final week against the Cardinals, who could be 8-8 as well. Let's look at the Cardinals' remaining schedule just to compare. They're 5-4 right now. They have the Jets at home on Sunday.
Yeah, they got an easy schedule.
Okay, so that's probably a win for them. 6-4 bye week in Seattle. I mean, 7-4 in Minnesota. That team's kind of coming back to earth, but let's give it to Minnesota. 7-5 at home against Seattle. 8-5 at home against the Patriots. 9-5, and then the Panthers. So this team, the Cardinals could get to 10 wins theoretically, even if they lose to the Vikings by week 16. Jets, Seahawks twice, Patriots, Panthers. Wow. So the Niners are in a tough spot, man. They really can't. They got to go on this run.
They have to. And I expect them to. I mean, if I'm basing everything on history, right, we base, the best teller of the future is the past. If we're doing that, then the Niners will go on a run. But their schedule's not easy. It's a lot of travel, not a lot of rest. And to your point, Cardinals have a very easy schedule. So like I said, they painted themselves in a corner. That's why these games that you have the lead on, 10-point leads, you have to finish. You got to close it out. You can't afford to give those up early or they come back to bite you. And that's what the 49ers are up against now, but they've shown they can do it in the past, and hopefully they can do it again this year.
I'm going to say something blasphemous too, man. Brock needs to play better. He needs to play better. He's playing well, but he's 4-4, and he's turning the ball over. Kyler Murray over here on a worse team, objectively worse roster, is playing better, turning the ball over less, and making just as many plays, if not more. He's got 3 fourth-quarter comeback victories already this year. Brock has 3 in his entire career, including the playoffs. So Brock needs to turn it up because we've seen him play at a better than good level. He's playing like a B quarterback to me right now, and there's no shame in that. That's Baker. who we're going to see this week. But he's had stretches of A play, and they're going to need it from him this year. Now that Christian's back, no excuse, man.
Yeah, consistency is the thing that we need from Brock. Like, he's had moments this year where you're like, wow, the third quarter against the Cowboys was fantastic. He's had moments this year that were very impressive, but then he's also had opportunities to win the games and then seize them. He could have won in that Rams game. He did not. He had an opportunity. He didn't pull the trigger on a wide open BA for a touchdown. So it's been inconsistent from Brock, but CMC, Christian McCaffrey, is the magic elixir for consistency for Brock Purdy. And I expect that to happen for Brock and the entire 49ers offense with the return of Christian McCaffrey.
Well, let me say one thing to Brock directly. Quality control, man to man. The hold the ball for 5 seconds, run around, do your Kyler Murray impression, and then try to throw it deep. Like, those days are over. It was fun. You learned. You saw what you could do. I mean, we made some friends along the way. It was exciting. Done.
Right.
Because you are not the same quarterback when you play like that. You can make plays. But you look at his numbers this year, 6 of his 7 picks have been on plays where he held the ball longer than 2.5 seconds. Knock it off. Knock it off. It's not true. It's not. You're not that guy. You are the guy who checks it down to Christian if it ain't open within 2.5 seconds. Check it down.
I believe he's at 3.63 seconds to throw, which is the second longest of all quarterbacks in the NFL, way past beyond all the starters. And like you said, that's the thing is, like, Jordan Mason on a dump off, you're choosing to pass that up. I don't know why, but that's what you're choosing to do. You're not going to choose to do that with Christian McCaffrey standing right there wide open. You are going to take the dump off, and that's going to be huge for this entire offense and for Brock Purdy and his statistics.
Shyamaal Dio says, first off, love you, Grant and Ryan. I love you too, Shyamaal. I wondered if he hasn't had any setbacks, CMC he's talking about, but is the risk for Achilles injury still there? Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's always there. Supposedly he's 100%. So supposedly, if he's 100%, no setbacks, it shouldn't be any different than the risk for anyone else. But it does make you feel like there is that risk because of what he's been out for so long.
When a guy takes 2 months off mid-season and goes to Germany for a treatment that you can't get here, you can only, I think that indicates the level of anxiety that he's experiencing and how dire the situation is. I mean, the remedy didn't exist in America, and they're hoping it existed in Germany. And so far, they seem optimistic in the sense that he's there, but we'll see what happens. They're kind of like trying to see if they can reverse the aging process or thumb their nose at Father Time or whatever. I mean, this is the best treatment Germany can provide and that money can buy. So let's see where modern science is. We'll find out. Nicholas says Niners sadly need CMC despite talented roster. Barely escaped the sorry Cowboys and Seahawks. They only can win one way. It only works on crap teams.
Can we talk about real quick in regards to this comment, how bad the Cowboys are? And that's why that game, the win over the Cowboys, I was telling everybody, I fully expect the 49ers to win. I expect them to blow them out. They didn't blow them out because but they did win. But the Cowboys are awful, as you saw against the Falcons. Even Dak Prescott himself said, we effing suck. So,
and now he's out for a while. I mean, they're as bad. Yeah. I'm over here doing power rankings for SI. I have to do it every week. Do you want me to run through it real quick? I was thinking about putting the Cowboys like in the bottom 5. My worst team right now is the Raiders. You could go with Carolina, but the Raiders actually lost to Carolina. So I don't know. This is what I got for the power rankings. And I don't put a ton of thought into it. So you guys let me know if you think I'm crazy. This is week 10. 1, Kansas City, just cuz. 2, Detroit. 3, Baltimore. 4, Buffalo. 5, Washington. 6, Pittsburgh. 7, Chargers. 8, Minnesota. I'm losing confidence in them. 9, Houston. 10, Philly. 11, Green Bay. 12, Arizona. I'm a big Arizona guy. 13, Rams. 14, Cincinnati. 15, Atlanta. 16, Niners. I'm a hater. 16, Niners. I feel like what they've shown this year has been the essence of mediocrity, but with McCaffrey coming back, I'd like to see him like take a hit before I vault him into the top 10, but clearly they have top 10, top 5 potential if McCaffrey's McCaffrey.
Let me ask you about the Eagles. Did you have the Eagles in there at all?
I did. I had them at 12. No, 10. I'd have been 10.
You know what's funny is the Eagles are actually they're on a 4-game win streak, and nobody's talking about them, but they have the second longest win streak in the NFC right now. So they're kind of hot. Nobody's really talking about them. I'm not sure why, but they're on a little bit of a run here. It's interesting. They may be the late season bloomers. We'll see. I'm not a big believer in Jalen Hurts or Sirianni, but they're doing well.
I feel like Jalen Hurts is a lot like Brock Purdy. I mean, they're stylistically different, but in the sense of if you put a good team around Hurts, if you give Hurts a good running back and you let him run around, he's tough. If you give Brock a good running back and you let him run around too, he's tough. So I feel like last year they were just asking Hurts to do everything and he broke down. This year, Saquon Barkley, the two of them, having to stop both of them is hard. And having to stop both of Purdy and McCaffrey is really difficult.
Barkley's doing a hell of a job this year too. Barkley, like that's the one thing about the Eagles that I do like. They focus on the trenches, and now their run game is there with Barkley, which makes them pretty dangerous.
Yaz Williams says he needs to play to get into game shape. That is true and something they need to balance. But the question is how much. Yaz Williams says, I forget, do we have Joey or Nick Bosa? Oh, shots fired. But really, his following the same exact trajectory. Joshua Wyatt says the division stinks. Watching you try to pump up these pretenders when you don't believe it is kind of gross. It's all about if Kyle can find the switch. If he fails, it's not because of the division. No, I wouldn't say I'm pumping up Arizona and the Rams. I just think that the Niners aren't better than either of them. And I don't think I like Kyler and Stafford, but those teams aren't good.
It's a mid-off. It's a mid-off in this division right now.
Yeah. I love when Josh Wyatt gets slightly outraged at me. Okay. Kind of gross. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? Okay. Matt Barrows, the Athletic, highly respected beat writer, came out with a prediction article today. And one of his 6 predictions was that the Niners will pay Brock Purdy if he continues his current level of play this season. They will pay him whatever the top of the market is for quarterbacks. And to me, if Dak Prescott is getting $60 million next year when the cap goes up, top of the market is more than that. 61, 62, 65, I don't know, but something more than 60 million a year. Barrow says he fully expects Brock's going to get it. Nothing left to prove other than maintaining where he's at right now. What do you think? Not Willie. Willie and should he? Those are 2 questions. How about that?
Willie, probably, yes, because there's not many alternatives, and we can discuss that. But my first response is Willie, yes. Here's the funny thing, though. I took a poll on my Twitter, and I asked 49er fans, because I'm assuming most people that follow me are Niner fans, not all of them, but a big majority, was it a mistake for the Cowboys to pay Dak Prescott? What do you think the results were of that survey? The only yes or no is the only answer you could give. What do you think the yeses was that it was a mistake? What percent?
87%.
Pretty close. 85%. So 85% of the people I polled, that's really good. 85% of the people I polled said it was a mistake to pay Dak Prescott that money. Now listen to this. Dak Prescott, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And his completion percentage is 64.7. Brock Purdy, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and his completion percentage is 64.5. So 0.2 difference in completion percentage. Dak has 1 more touchdown, 1 more interception. 85% of 49er fans think it was a mistake to pay him. But I bet you if I just change the names, like, do you think the 49ers should pay Brock Purdy $65 million a year? I think those numbers would change quite a bit. So I find it funny that a lot of Niner fans think it was a mistake to pay Dak Prescott that amount of money, but I bet you a lot of them would be okay with paying Brock that amount when pretty much their completion percentage, touchdowns, interception ratio is almost the exact same. And I realize this is where I piss off a lot of 49er fans by spitting truth they don't want to hear, but it is the truth that you don't want to hear. So my response is I don't want to pay Brock Purdy $65 million, not with the way he's playing right now, because he's in that tier to me with Dak Prescott. I have Brock between like 8 and 12, maybe around 10 right now. And I don't want to pay the 10th best quarterback in the NFL $65 million, even though being 10th is good. That's a good thing. That's a crippling amount of money to pay a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, to me, to get that much money, you got to be better than good. You got to be excellent, bordering on elite. Like Justin Herbert, I'm cool with it. Jared Goff, I was skeptical, but man, he's stepping up and he's looking like the most accurate quarterback in the league. Jordan Love, I could see it, and I think he does have the traits to become elite, but he's not there yet. Stroud, I could see it. I could like it. Kyler Murray, kind of carrying a crappy team, making a lot of money. I can kind of see it, but like Baker, no. Russell Wilson, absolutely not. Dak, no. Tua, no. Jalen Hurts, no. Although he is running, he's doing pretty well this year, but no, I don't like that contract. If that's the tier that Brock's in, the good but not great tier, and I think he is, then offer him a 3-year extension, not a 4-year extension. Offer him $35 million a year, not $65 million a year. Like, yeah, absolutely. Bring back Brock on those circumstances, but just to give him $65 million because the Cowboys gave Dak 60. I mean, if you want to be Dallas.
If you want to be Dallas. And here's the thing. A lot of people, I knew they were going to be mad when I said what I said, but it is the truth. And here's the thing. You look at Dak Prescott and his offense, no offensive line. Not like the Niners have the best offensive line, but they're doing a lot better than that. Paul Crow says I'm ignoring Purdy's rushing touchdowns again. Oh, who cares, man? What you act like he's Lamar Jackson out here? Here's the thing.
Like quarterback sneaks.
Come on, man. And here's the other thing is that Dak Prescott, who has more weapons? Dak Prescott or Brock Purdy?
Oh, Brock.
Brock, even without CMC. Brock. Yeah. The Dallas Cowboys offensive run game is horrible. It's one of the worst in the NFL, if not it's bottom 5 in the NFL. So Dak did the numbers I just told you that were pretty much identical to Brock Purdy's was without a run game whatsoever. So to think that they're on this big different level, that's just your 49ers fan. I'm speaking. They're really not. They're kind of in that same tier where they're very good, but not great, not going to make you elite, not going to win you a Super Bowl and put the team on their back. That's where Brock is right now. Now it might change. Maybe Brock has the rest of the season. He's got CMC back. So I do expect those numbers to improve, but still paying $65 million a year to a quarterback that's not one of the top 3 in the NFL, it just seems crazy to me.
Hey, I mean, if his numbers were like top 5 in the NFL right now, like they were last year, and he had a winning record, I'd be like, damn, all right, you took Christian McCaffrey away. He's doing it again. I really got nothing else to say. He's clearly an excellent quarterback, even though he looks like he's 12. Like, I don't care. It is what it is. But he's 16th in quarterback rating right now. And you're going to say, I don't care. He was an MVP candidate last year. Let's make him the highest paid player in football. Like, wait a second. Like, let's compare him to the other guy that Kyle loves, Kirk Cousins. Where is Kirk Cousins right now in terms of? So Kirk Cousins is 9th in quarterback rating right now. Old ass Kirk, 36-year-old Kirk, his quarterback rating is 101. And you're going to give Brock Purdy more than him, like $20 million a year more than Kirk? Like, why? To me, like we saw the Vikings try to give. I mean, they made Kirk one of the highest paid players in the league for a long time. They went nowhere with him. Nowhere. And then they finally get rid of him and straight up downgrade at the quarterback position. I think most people would agree that Kirk is better than Darnold. But the Vikings are better with Darnold than with Kirk, and it's completely financial. I mean, I think that's instructive.
Yeah. I mean, Brock Purdy right now has the 22nd. There's only 32 quarterbacks. Brock Purdy's 22nd in completion percentage, guys. It's not like I like Brock Purdy, and I do want to keep him, and I do want to pay him. I don't want to pay him $65 million because without Christian McCaffrey, he hasn't played like a $65 million quarterback. And so I want to keep Brock.
Baker Mayfield is completing 71% of his Baker, and he's doing it for like $30 million a year. I'm saying, like, you can get good quarterbacks. You don't have to spend a bajillion dollars to get a good quarterback. They're around.
I would take a hard line with Brock, 45 million tops. That's it, brother. This is what we're going to offer you. That's the top. And if you don't want it, I understand, but You know, you're going to play out your contract. You could sit out. We're going to draft a quarterback, see what else we can do. But I'm not going to pay multiple years, $65 million per year. I'm not going to do that. Not yet. Not unless he improves.
If they wanted to trade him, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. People are just like, oh, down, thumbs down. Okay, look, if they wanted to trade him at the end of this year, I don't think they'd get a top 10 pick for
him. No.
Maybe top 20.
Maybe. I don't know. I
think they'd for sure get a first round pick for Brock, but one.
I want to reiterate. I'm saying no to $65 million per year for Brock Purdy over multiple years. I like Brock Purdy, and I think Brock Purdy can improve as time goes on. And I'd like to see if he can do that. I don't want to get rid of him. I'm not saying trade him. I'm just saying I'm not paying him $65 million a year for what he's putting out without Christian McCaffrey. Because if you do pay him that, then you're going to lose guys like Christian McCaffrey, and then you're going to get the results that we've been seeing so far this year.
And, it would be funny if so it's like, who could they get next year if they wanted to trade Brock Purdy for a first round pick and sort of go the Minnesota route of like, you know what? We want to keep our team together. We don't want to spend a lot of money on our quarterback position. They could get Darnold. It's ridiculous, right? He's having his numbers are really good. I wonder what do you think Darnold's going to get paid this offseason? It's a little early to say. He's lost 2 of his last 3.
I don't know. I feel like the trajectory for Sam Darnold on this Vikings team is going to be similar to Kirk Cousins. Well, they'll make the playoffs, but they won't do anything in the playoffs. It's kind of my feeling. I feel like
they might even miss it. They might even miss it. Yeah.
They're going to ultimately, he's going to turn back into Sam Darnold. You saw a little bit of that last night. He did have a good game, but he also had 2 turnovers. So, I don't know, man. I like Brock. I don't want to lose Brock. I just don't want to pay him $65 million. I don't think he's earned that.
I got a guy they could get for 1 year, $5 million, 1% of their cap. I'm pretty sure they could win with him too. In fact, I'm sure they could. And I don't know if they could win a Super Bowl with him, but I'm positive they could win games with him. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Hell no. No way.
He's chilling. I think Kyle Shanahan, Jimmy, have a beer, hash it out. Your plays are actually not so bad. Oh, your football IQ's decent.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So wait, is Baker a free agent? Baker and Kirk are both free agents?
Let me see. Baker? No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, because
there's also Trey Lance.
No, here's the thing, man. Again, I like Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a $65 million quarterback. I don't think I would pay him that or offer him that. If you back me in the corner, I would say, I'm sorry. We're not going to do that. You can let him play out on his existing contract. If he wants to hold out, go ahead. I'll draft a rookie. I'll find a good backup quarterback in the meantime, but I'm not going to cripple my franchise for years to come until he shows me that he's a top 5 quarterback before I pay him that top 5 money.
I mean, we're talking about paying a quarterback 15% to 20% of the salary cap. That's a lot. And I mean, the Chiefs have been winning Super Bowls that way. I'm not sure any other team could do it. And what's interesting is like they're paying Mahomes an average of $45 million a year. Like their team is like not great. Their defense is really good. If he were making like $5 million a year more and you had to take one piece away from that defense, I don't know if they win the Super Bowl. I feel like they're right on the red line as is. And so you're talking about being like, let's just clear that by $20 million a year and win the Super Bowl. Like, I don't. Unless, I mean, is that even the goal, though? I mean, this team's making money. You know what I'm saying? Like that, they're getting in. They're in the mix. They're interesting. That's even better. They're interesting. Who generates more drama and buzz? The Niners or the Chiefs? The Niners. So they're the better team.
If you're talking from a business standpoint, business-wise, they're fine. Who cares? I just think it's – look, I know a lot of people are mad. I'm reading the chat. I see you guys. You want to just pay Brock Purdy $65 million. By all means, if that's what you want to do it. But I think there's going to be consequences if you go ahead and pay Brock Purdy that much. The only way that you are able to sustain this level of winning if you're paying a quarterback $65 million, a quarterback like Brock Purdy, is if you nail your freaking draft every year 49ers did just do a good job in this draft, but they're going to have to do that year in and year out because you're not going to be able to afford veterans plus a $65 million quarterback. It's just there's a salary cap.
Yep. Matt McEwen has been a member for 15 months. Thank you, Matt. He says, can't say if Brock's numbers get better with CMC, he deserves the money. If he needs CMC, he doesn't need $65 million a year. Yeah, he needs 35 in CMC. Gavin says, Garendo.
Little switch up.
All right. It's the sleeper time. Time to make some sleeper picks. We got a game tonight. Tampa Bay, Kansas City. If you're watching later, tomorrow, you'll know whether we're right or not, but we're always right. So here's Patrick Mahomes as Patrick. Oh, look, that's pretty cute. What do you think? From SpongeBob. Passing yards, 244.
Who are they playing? I don't even know. I got to pay attention
Tampa.
to Monday.
Rush yards, 20. Ooh.
This is another reason, by the way, the 49ers are going to beat Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is on a short week. Rushing yards. He hasn't been rushing. What about his touchdowns? What is that?
Passing touchdowns, 1.5.
Sheesh. This is tough. I think yards I would probably go over.
Yeah, they got Hopkins now. I feel like they got more just guys to catch the ball, which is always helpful. Baker, 240.
I'm going under because they lost their receivers. Those numbers are going to be skewed based on previous. Yeah, I'm going to say.
And the Chiefs have a great defense. Baker's been lighting it up, though. Cade Otton, 5.5 catches.
Cade Otton.
I like that. That's their tight end. I mean, without their wide receivers, he's their guy.
I think that's a good one. Over.
I like that one.
More.
Travis Kelce, 5.5 catches.
Yeah.
He's been pretty hot.
Yeah, I would say I'd go over. Touchdowns. He's so what is it? How many touchdowns does this guy have this year? Not many. He's
not many.
Struggling.
You want to go under?
No, I would go under I'd go over on the receptions.
All right, cool. Let's do that. Kareem Hunt. No, DeAndre Hopkins. Receptions, 3.5.
He just got there. I think they're going to target him. I'm going to go over.
I would think so, too. They got his feet wet last week. He got 2. He's getting more this week.
He's going over this week.
Ooh, Butker. 1.5 field goals made.
I'd probably go over on that if we had to pick kickers. But here's the thing. Before you do this, every parlay I've lost this year has been off kickers.
Okay, fair enough.
So I don't want to mess with
kickers. Good call.
I've had bad luck.
Bucky Irving, 34.5 rushing yards. Bucky.
I would say over on that.
I'm a big Bucky Irving guy. You don't know
anybody
that
named Bucky? Anybody named
Absolutely.
Bucky? Yeah.
Okay, those are our picks. Ryan and I have been known to mess around and get them all right. So just keep that in mind. Submitting the entry.
Right. Yep. The Ricky P jersey.
Ricky P. Download the app. Use promo code Cohn. Get that signed Ricky P jersey. I'm going to give it away soon. Real soon. All right. John Feliciano's practice window was open today. It was funny. He was there in the locker room, and he was news, and no one wanted to talk to him. It was interesting. Everyone was just kind of just waiting around, looking at their phones, like, "Oh, John." To me, I'm thinking he might be, you're not really thinking about him because Pooney's back, and so he's clearly not going to play right guard. But Jake Brendel, he fits. I mean, they run the ball well. He seems to do a good job as a run blocker, picking up blitzes. That's his responsibility, not a strength of his. And then one-on-one pass protection, definitely a big weakness. He's one of the worst in the league statistically, according to Pro Football Focus. Do you think Brendel is now on notice and Feliciano could take his spot at center the way he took Burford's spot at right guard last year?
No. I think the only opportunity that remains for Burford and Feliciano this year is off of injury. I think the 49ers like Jake Brendel a lot better than a lot of 49er fans do. They trust him. And with the center position, it's a lot of mental. And they trust him to make the right decisions. Should they? That's another question. But if you're going off of mental, how do I say this without being too offensive? I'm not a big Feliciano mental fan. I like him better at guard where he's not making decisions. He can just block. At
And
center,
what's funny is that you base that like 100% off his social media activity, which is fair.
I mean,
It's like,
he comes off as not someone that I want making decisions for the team. I'll just put it that way. And no disrespect. I do think he's a good blocker. I think he's one of the best. He's probably top 5 from a blocking standpoint on this team, top 4 even, honestly, from a physical blocking standpoint. I just don't think the 49ers buy into just replacing Brendel just off top like that. And I don't know if I want him replacing Brendel at center. I would, next man up, a tackle, guard goes down. Yeah, sure, throw him in there. But other than that, no, I don't think Brendel's on notice unless he gets injured or something like that.
Yeah, but let's say he's older too. Let's say he, twists his ankle, misses a drive. Feliciano goes in, plays better. That's the end of the Brendel era. And it happened to Burford last year. It's clearly the Niners think that Brendel is their best option at center, but they think all kind of things and are proven wrong once other guys play because football's funny like that. You can't exactly simulate it in practice. So I'd be interested to see if Feliciano actually gets a snap at center, a drive, a half a game, what it looks like, because Brendel's probably the worst player in the offense. I mean, Colton McKivitz has surpassed him at this point.
Yeah, Colton has improved. I do think, I think Feliciano is a better blocker both in the run and pass game than Brendel. I think he's probably better than McKivitz also. He might even be better than Aaron Banks, if we're being real here. He might. But the 49ers aren't going to just supplant Brendel unless he's injured. So like you said, yes, if Brendel gets injured and Feliciano has to come in and he does a good job, then that's when he loses his position. But they're not just going to all of a sudden rotate him in or replace Brendel with John Feliciano. But it is good news for the 49ers to have that depth. So now they got Burford and Feliciano, who have both started in this league and have done a decent job as depth on the 49ers offensive line, which is a really good thing.
SF Bay Drummer says Brock is a bus rider at quarterback. Give me a bus driver like Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward.
I don't know about Shedeur in the NFL. I got to see that. Still. I'm not sold.
How are the Niners going to get either one of those guys?
Yeah, they have to have for top 5 draft pick.
Shreddy Murphy says, how do I enter for the Pearsall jersey giveaway? I already have Sleeper app. What's up, SF Bay Drummer? Oh, we'll just make another account on the on Sleeper account somehow and use promo code Cohn and boom, that's how you do it. Joshua Wyatt says paying a mid-tier quarterback mid-tier money has never worked in the history of dumb plans. Either you think he's elite or you move on. If you think he's not worth 65, you shouldn't be okay at 35 either. That's an interesting point.
It is an interesting point. I think if you're in the NFL and you're a GM, if you don't have an elite quarterback, you should be looking for him. And that's why I think regardless of what they do with Brock Purdy, they should draft one anyways and keep trying to find the next Patrick Mahomes, the next Josh Allen, the next Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it's true. You don't just be like, you know what?
You don't settle.
Jalen Hurts. We're done. No. He's good. He's good. Yeah. You could do a lot worse, but you're not done. Batman. Yeah. Batman himself says Rams look like the best team in the NFC West right now.
I don't know. They almost lost to the Seahawks. They almost lost to the Seahawks.
Meanwhile, the Cardinals are beating good teams. Corey Soto. So we have a quarterback who is reportedly in line for $65 million, but we're talking about needing a running back to win games. Name another team with a quarterback that with that contract, with this dynamic, we're losing touch. It's the Jalen Hurts story. They gave him all that money and they're like, oh, but he needs a great running back. And a great offensive line and 2 really good wide receivers. Yeah.
Right. That's the point. And it's people are in here saying, who's paying him $65 million? That was the question. And that was the question I was answering. I would not pay Brock Purdy $65 million. I'd pay him like 35, 40, but I understand the previous point that Josh Wyatt made. So yeah, I get it.
Something to think about. Matt McEwen says, so if we don't like Purdy at $65 million, we shouldn't like him at $35 million. So if you won't buy a minivan for the price of a Porsche, you don't buy the minivan for sticker price. We're walking to work.
I think what you do is you buy that minivan and you keep saving up for something nicer.
Yeah. Don't cash in your chips just yet. Okay. The NFL trade deadline is tomorrow at 1:00. Will the 49ers make a trade?
Like I think a lot of the the 49ers are bringing Jawan Jennings back. They're bringing Christian McCaffrey back. They're bringing Jake Moody back. They're bringing Drake Greenlaw back in a little while, right? So in some regards, they brought back guys. They made a trade without trading. So and so there's part of that. But if you look at the history of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they do make trades at the bye week. And last year they got Chase Young, Christian McCaffrey. I do expect the 49ers to go get somebody. Is it going to be that big splash that people are wanting? Probably not. I think they get something at the D line and or at wide receiver, but not something that you're like, holy shiz, with Super Bowl. I don't know if that's coming, but I do think they make some kind of move.
Yeah, like they might trade a 6th round pick for someone possible. I don't think they're going to do much, which is interesting. In the past, like when they traded for Chase Young, they traded a 3rd round pick for him. That was a big splash. He was a former number 2 pick. He's a name, and they talked about him like this is the guy who's going to put us over the edge. They really talked about him that way, from Lynch to the players. Did the same thing with Christian McCaffrey. They've made big splashes where they're like, you know what, we feel like we're one guy away. They've said stuff like that. I feel like they think Christian McCaffrey's that big splash.
Yeah, that's the one guy away.
So again, that's a lot of pressure on Christian. And if he's the Christian they remember, then they're right. But if he's not, if he practices for a week and then feels sore again, like he did in training camp and before week 1, then they're gonna either have wished that they traded for someone, or maybe they're acknowledging like we're just not that good without Christian, and there's really no point. That would be bleak.
I think they go get a guy like a Kendrick Bourne at receiver, and they get a like a top 20 defensive lineman from somebody. That's probably what they do. I do think they go do that, but I think more than anything, they're going to be relying on Christian McCaffrey over anybody else. I think the 49ers earlier in this season, when they paid all of these guys, they made that decision to go all in and win the Super Bowl by paying their existing dudes. So I do think they still believe in this team and their potential to go win a Super Bowl this year. And so therefore, I think they make some kind of trade, and we'll find out about it today or tomorrow before the deadline. But I also don't expect it to be some big, huge name that's going to really just make a huge difference. I think they're relying, like you said, on Christian McCaffrey for that.
Yeah. So if you're expecting, because it's like you saw what the Ravens got Deontay Johnson, the Lions are going to get Zadarius Smith. Teams that really think, am I wrong about that? Thought I read that.
It's rumored. I don't think it's finalized, but that's what's supposed to happen. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll see what happens. But like if the Lions are making moves like that and the Ravens are making moves like that, like those are teams that are already ahead of the 49ers.
They have to.
Probably better than the 49ers. And now they're just getting back. Like the Chiefs went and got DeAndre Hopkins. Where is your corresponding move? It's got to be Christian.
Yeah. And I think, you look at the two positions where they could use some help. Receiver would be one of them, and defensive line somewhere. I think those are the two main positions that jump out at you. If Drake Greenlaw wasn't coming back, I would say linebacker. But I also don't think a linebacker is just the kind of position you could just throw out there as easily as a receiver or defensive lineman. I think it takes time to learn the offense and defense with the 49ers. So I do expect them to get receiver and also somebody on the defensive line.
I'm just feeling cynical about the way they're feeling about this team. I feel like they're cynical. Like they're acting like, you know what? Ayuk's not here. Greenlaw may come back, but if he does, like, what'll he be? This just isn't our year. So we're not going to make some big move at the deadline. Christian's coming back. You never know. Maybe Christian changes everything, but barring that, it's just not our year. We've had a lot of bad luck, and we'll get Ayuk back next year, and Christian will be at 100% next year, and maybe Greenlaw too. But this year, I don't know.
I don't think the 49ers think that. I think a lot of the fan base thinks that. I think a lot of content creators think that. I probably think that way. Actually, Kyle? I do. I don't think Kyle thinks that way. I think Kyle thinks he can pull this off. I do. Okay. And, and every year, if you look at the NFL playoffs, there's always that team at the end of the year that gets hot at the right time, that gets healthy at the right time, and goes on a run. And Kyle has shown that he can go on runs in the past. I 100% think Kyle thinks he can make this happen with Christian McCaffrey coming back. I really believe they're like, oh, Christian's coming back. Drake Greenlaw's coming back. We're going to be good. Watch. I really think that's how they think.
Possible. Absolutely possible. Take some more stats. Matt McEwen says Ojolari, sorry, spelling. Go get him.
The Giants have said they don't really want to trade him. He's a guy that I told, on the 4-man front, that's who I said they should go get. But it sounds like the Giants don't have interested in trading him.
That's good. They probably should. They're going places. They're going places. Keith Murphy, the unbeaten, says Baltimore keeps giving Lamar weapons. Look at acquiring Henry. Well, they're looking at this year as this is their year for sure. This might be the best team they've had. Lamar is he's won 2 MVPs and this might be his best year yet.
Right.
In fact, it is.
Yeah, he's doing good.
Blood Moon says outside Kittle, no TE2 concerning wide receiver. No, go get Njoku.
Sure. I'd be down. That's a position I wanted them to address, and they've tried to address for a long time and haven't been able to get. I'd be down for that.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, that's our show for today. Ryan and I. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We got our audio-only pod, the Best 49ers podcast. Check it out. The link's in the description. We're going to be recording our episode right after this. So keep your
4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
4 or 5 days a week. And it's audio that you only get on the Best 49ers podcast. It's not, we switched it up. So make sure you hit that description.
And let me tell you a little secret. It's way better than this show. And this show is the best. So
yeah, we half-assed it for the show. And then we're just like, now let's turn it on.
Lock in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, see you guys over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.